Chat GPT. Let's talk about it. March Madness is here. It is officially halfway through March 15th on the day of recording this video, but the tournament starts tomorrow. I have a bracket to fill out, and unlike most people in this world, especially that are playing March Madness this year, I have not watched a second of college basketball this year. I have no idea who's going to win, upsets, who's going to make it, players, nothing. This is where AI is going to come in. We're going to let ChatGPT 4, to be specific, fill out the entire bracket for me, and then through shorts and other content on this channel, we'll do different check-ins during the round of 64, round of 32, round of 16, 8, and then final 4, and then the final championship games. So let's go ahead, fill out the bracket in this video. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below before you do. So with that being said, let's see what ChatGPT 4 picks for our March Madness 2023 bracket. So a couple things to note in ChatGPT 4. This is the brand new version of ChatGPT. So not only is it a lot more advanced, it's a lot more creative. It is insane what you can do here, but we're not going to be talking necessarily about the capabilities of GPT-4. The thing about GPT-4 that I like is that a lot of historical events, it says here, limited knowledge of world and events after 2021, whereas the old GPT had zero knowledge of events past 2021. So if you go into ChatGPT original and you type in, Houston versus North Kentucky, it will give you a huge spiel about how it won't be able to predict such. So we typed out this paragraph here in the bottom left into the chat box. We'll go over that here real quick, but before we do, big shout out to Diabetic GameGuy on YouTube. He typed this paragraph out and he made a video about this. He didn't dive into the actual process of it, but just what paragraph he wrote. But we copy the same paragraph here. So with this, as long as we press enter, it should be able to actually then respond, and it should say, yes, I understand. Great. Now this should be able to just reply with different matchups. Let's go ahead and get started here with the first matchup, Alabama versus TAMU, Corpus Christi. Let's see what chat says here. So it did have to think for a minute, but here, based on their performance in the regular season, Alabama's stronger team and would be considered the favorite to win against Texas A&M. Corpus Christi, or upsets can always happen in tournament play, so there's no guarantee of a win for Alabama, of course. So number 1 seed, that is to be expected. Let's go on to the next one. We're going to do Maryland versus West Virginia. Spelling is correct. Maryland, West Virginia, both solid basketball teams. West Virginia would be considered the favorite to win this matchup. Okay, so there's our first upset according to ChatGPT. Big shout out to my guy Aaron over there. I know he was rooting for Maryland, but I guess GPT-4 has West Virginia pulling off the upset. Let's move on to San Diego State University versus Charleston. All right, so we have our full first round of 64 for the South filled out there. We are going to speed through some of these 64 rounds over here just because there's a lot of teams and a lot of picks, and we don't want to make this video insanely long. But you guys can see, so our first upset, like I mentioned, is at West Virginia over Maryland. And then for the most part, they went just with the higher seeds here. It's a very bold strategy there, Cotton. But either way, we're going to head over to the Midwest. Let's go ahead and get the first one out of the way. So it's going to be Houston versus North Kentucky. It amazes me too that ChatGPT-4 has the ability to talk about each team, right? They have a higher seed in the NCAA tournament and have been one of the top teams in the Pac-12 this season, right? And they're talking about, obviously, Arizona. Princeton has a solid team, a solid season, but is significant underdogs in this matchup, right? So this definitely does take into effect seeding and takes into effect how they've been playing and what division they've been playing in and whatnot. So Houston versus Northern Kentucky. Houston would be considered strong favorites, as they should, being the number 1 seed. Let's go ahead and figure out Iowa versus Auburn. Okay, so we have Iowa beating Auburn right there. But look at this. I mean, it's crazy how they talk about each player, and they talk about Luka Garza and Garza's impact on the game. Nonetheless, Iowa is a safer bit to win this matchup. Love that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead. Let's go in a little time lapse here and fill out the rest. So real quick, right? I do want to pause the time lapse here. In this Texas A&M versus Penn State matchup, it does mention here that while Texas A&M is favored and whatnot, I believe just because of seeding, 7 versus 10, it does say here that they have some qualities within the higher seasons, which gives them an edge over Penn State. However, Penn State has a solid season and could potentially challenge Texas A&M if they can control the tempo and limit their turnovers. So Texas A&M is still the safer bet to win this matchup. They're taking into consideration upsets and whatnot, which is ideally what we're looking for here in this video. So for the last one here in the Midwest, Texas versus Colgate. Texas would be considered a strong favorite to win. Obviously, it's a 2 seed over the 15 Colgate. That makes a lot of sense. So that's our Midwest here. I don't believe there's any upsets here. Yeah, top seed wins. That's fine. Let's move on to the East. And I'm just gonna blow through this one real quick. So let's jump into it. This one's very interesting too. I'll pause just the time lapse for a second here. Again, just to note that it does talk about Memphis. This is the Memphis versus the FAU game. Hey, FAU is right across the street from my alma mater. Big shout out over there to my South Florida crew. But they have had a solid season with some quality wins in the NCAA tournament. Florida Atlantic has a decent season, but is a lower seeded team and would have to play their best basketball to pull off an upset. While upsets can always happen in tournament play, Memphis' talent and experience make them the more likely team to come out on top this game. Love that. I just love how it is taking into consideration seeding and everything, all the different factors. So again, let's get through the rest of the East here and talk about what the bot came up with. All right, so with the East all done, this is very interesting. Again, once again, all higher seeds, but it is taking into account that upsets are possible. And a lot of these games too, especially Marquette versus Vermont here in the 2 versus 15 seed here. It does mention that Vermont is a tough team and could potentially challenge Marquette. They can control the pace of the game and execute their game plan efficiently. And again, I don't know if that's true or not. I mean, again, with zero NCAA experience watching or even following this season, this could be true, this could not be true, but I just find it interesting. It's not just saying higher seed wins because they're the higher seed. They're mentioning ball control, they're talking execution and everything like that. So with that being said, let's blast through the West real quick. So this one's really interesting too. We'll pause the time lapse real quick. TCU is playing this, either the winner of this ASU versus Nevada game over here. And so with that, we don't know exactly who to be playing, and thus makes it very difficult for anyone, let alone a computer, to understand who they're going to be playing. But I found it interesting how the chat over here says, if they play ASU, it could be a very closely contested game. TCU would be considered a favorite, right? If TCU plays Nevada, it could also be a closely contested game, but TCU would be, again, the favorites to win based on their overall talent and performance this season. So we're going to go with TCU. I find that interesting that they understand the play-in game. They understand the head-to-head competition, how they factor between who plays, who the actual game is against. Very interesting stuff. So this one's really interesting. This is the first time we've seen this in the chat GPT-4 over here. So in a matchup between Northwestern and Boise State, closely contested game, and it's really a toss-up. Like, they have no idea, right? So Northwestern's a highly seeded team, but Boise State has some impressive wins this season, has proven to be a competitive team. Overall, Northwestern's experience and talent could get a slight edge in the matchup, but Boise State has shown the ability to play tough and keep games close. So this one, they didn't really give a full answer. They didn't give one or the other. So we're actually going to go with the upset just to kind of shake things up. We're going to go with Boise State because they didn't really give an answer here. And so we'll move on here with the last matchup, UCLA versus NC Asheville, which I assume Chat GPT-4 is going to say that UCLA would be considered the heavy favorites. Yep, boom. All right, awesome. So we have our round 32 set up. Let's start up here in the South. Again, we can read all of this, but I want to make sure we can get through this all in one video here. So let's go with Alabama versus West Virginia. County Mama, take me home. Alabama. All right. Man, it's giving a good long description of what this outcome will be like. And so for me, both teams having the potential to come on top. It could come down to the wire, which teams... Okay, so West Virginia known for their tough defense and could potentially make things different for Alabama on the offensive end. Okay, so I believe Alabama is going to pull that one off. It's another one of these answers that does not give a full and complete, like, this team will win. So we're going to go with the upset on that one, just because it does mention that Alabama could be a challenge against West Virginia. Yeah, against West Virginia. So Alabama will come out on top. And then here in San Diego State, Virginia's known for shifty, can go either way. Both teams having the potential to come on top. Okay, so slight edge in the matchup toward Virginia. So we're going to favorite Virginia there. Then we're going to move on to Creighton versus Baylor. And they're writing a lot about this round 32. I wonder if they write more and more as the rounds kind of go on, which I don't really think that's going to be possible, just because we won't know what round it will be in, I'm assuming. but man, they're naming like specific players and they're naming like defensively, right? So it was overall talent and defensive. They're going to say that Baylor pulls out the win against Creighton. Let's go with Missouri versus Arizona. All right, so they're saying that Missouri's going to pull off the upset against Arizona. We're going to go with that one. We're going to actually change it up and go right over to the Midwest here. So we're going to say Houston versus Iowa. And while that one thinks, we're going to get the next one set up here. I believe they're going to say Houston in this one. Just because Houston's obviously the #1 seed. So I'm going to go with Houston on this one. It does look like they are somewhat favoriting Houston. Both teams have favorable matchups, have strong seasons. Actually, you know what, though? I read that wrong. It does say that Houston's defense might be a little bit challenged. We're going to go with Iowa on that one. So Miami versus Indiana. Let's see who wins this one. And then we'll go ahead and type out Iowa State versus Xavier. Miami's defense can slow down. This is crazy that GPT-4 can know all this. If we get their offense, ultimately this game can go either way. Let's be close. So okay, so I'm understanding here now that in the round of 32, it definitely is a little tougher for the computer to understand and make a decision, right? I think it sounds like they want Indiana because it sounds like the Indiana has the offensive kind of advantage here, and it's all about Miami stopping them, right? So Iowa State would be an interesting play between two different play styles. This is crazy that it understands the play styles of these two teams. It's nuts to think about. Okay, so it looks like they're favoring Xavier. We're gonna do Texas A&M versus Texas. Gotta love the interstate kind of competition here. So once again, it looks like the Texas A&M needs to slow down Texas's offense. So we're gonna stick with Texas, the higher seed right there. We're gonna burn through these real quick. You guys can obviously slow the video down or pause it as needed if you guys want to slow down and see a certain matchup and see what chat has to say about that. So with that being said, let's just roll the time lapse here. So we found our first glitch here in terms of Duke and Tennessee right here in the East. Duke versus Tennessee, as they mentioned. So I'm not sure why they think that they won't be able to play each other. They've mentioned players and teams that are in this year's bracket. So we're going to go ahead and just choose Tennessee here just for the sake of higher seeding here and move on. So once again, another one where Kentucky versus Kansas State is a possibility, but they are not taking that as an answer here in terms of questions. So let's go ahead. Let's see if Michigan versus Marquette might work. Let's see. Michigan versus Marquette. That's weird. Okay. I wondered if it's a glitch maybe just in the East, because we were able to do Purdue versus Memphis up here. No problem. Maybe if we go over here to Kansas versus Illinois. Let's just see if that works. Okay. So I had to remind the bot here that this is round 32 because it was not reading that this could be a matchup here in the second round. So I mentioned that this is round 32, and now for the Michigan and Marquette game, it does mention here that the matchup could go either way. Michigan State has a history of success in the NCAA programs. Marquette has also a strong performance in recent years. So it sounds like they would go with Michigan. I'm just, just putting it out there. So now using that same knowledge that ChatGPT 4 has here, we're going to do Kansas versus Illinois, and it should work. Let's see, fingers crossed. So Kansas might have a slight edge due to the experience and past success in the tournament. So Kansas, we're going to go right there. And then, all right, so now that it knows that we are, okay, so we do have to make sure that we do talk about, when we mentioned to GPT-4, the different rounds that we are talking about. So let's go back to the time lapse and finish the Western Conference here. So this one's interesting too. So yeah, it is taking some 2022 stats here for specific games and whatnot. That being said here, I do understand that it's not really taking that round 32 answer anymore. So we're gonna go ahead, take the higher seed here with Connecticut, and then we'll move on to let's see, TCU versus Gonzaga. So right here, right off the bat, they have the answer. In this matchup, I'd give it the advantage to Gonzaga. It's none of this like, oh, it's gonna be a close matchup and whatever. So we love that. Now we're going to do Boise State versus UCLA. So this is interesting. It just says here that doesn't have access to real-time data. I'm not asking about real-time data. We're looking as to who. Let's take some language up from the top because we definitely worn it out a little bit by now. So let's take the initial question, kind of refresh it here. Who would you predict to win between Boise State versus UCLA? That way we're that way we're specifying exactly. It's round 32. Who do they predict to win? Let's see what they say. Higher ranked team, UCLA. I would choose the same thing. Okay, cool. We have our round 32 done. Let's go on to our Sweet 16 here and go with. Let's make sure they know. Now on to the Sweet 16 round. All right, cool. We're gonna do Alabama versus Virginia. I'm assuming Alabama. Oh wow. Okay, so they think that Virginia can pull off the upset. Okay, control the pace. We love that. Now we're gonna do Baylor versus Missouri. Baylor. I love this. So they know it's a close matchup too, and they know that this might be tough. Baylor would probably be the favorite to come out on top. So, all right, Baylor right there over Missouri. We're gonna finish with the Midwest here before we move on to the Elite Eight. We're gonna do Iowa versus Indiana. This one's more of a head-to-head matchup. This one's looking into head-to-head. And they're talking about players and the inbound scoring to make this a competitive matchup. So it looks like they're favoriting Indiana here. So we're gonna go with them. Again, this is not perfect. I don't expect it to be with GPT-4 being just released, but based on performance in the regular season, I'll give the slight edge to Texas. So there we go. Again, this is brand new technology. I don't expect it to be 100% perfect, but still, this is really, really cool, and I'm really curious to see how this goes. Memphis versus Tennessee. Let's see what it says. So this one's interesting. This might be taking into this one might be a glitch, or this might be broken. Memphis versus Tennessee. We had issues with Tennessee here with Duke in the round 32 one. So maybe Tennessee's glitched. Maybe it's Tennessee State that I'm thinking of, and I'm not really thinking about this clearly. I don't know. So we're gonna go ahead and just choose the higher seed. Go with Tennessee, and then we're gonna go ahead and go down to Kansas in Sweet 16 round. Who do you predict to win Kansas State versus Michigan State to win? All right, cool. Then over here to the West, Kansas versus. So weird that that it would. I would predict Kansas to win against Connecticut in the Sweet 16 round. Okay, yeah, you give the edge to Kansas. Okay, so it has Kansas winning both. Okay, interesting. And then now Gonzaga versus UCLA. Oh, you know what? Yeah, that was the right question. Yeah, Gonzaga versus UCLA, and that would be Gonzaga to win. Okay, another upsets. Now we're getting into the real upsets here. This is the final, the Elite Eight, I should say. So we're gonna do in the Elite Eight now, and we're gonna do Virginia versus Baylor. Both teams have strong defenses, right? A bit more firepower. Okay, so they're gonna say Baylor. Okay, then Indiana versus Texas. See, it's taking its time to type out a long answer here. I'm not. This is not a Sweet 16 round. This is the Elite Eight. See, and they're talking about, oh, if they were to match up, I'll give the edge to Texas. Okay. Now moving down here. So again, Tennessee is the one that seems to be giving us some issues. So we're going to say Tennessee versus Michigan State. Michigan State. All right, cool. And then the final one for the Elite Eight, Kansas, excuse me, versus Gonzaga. Okay. Okay. Gonzaga. Okay, and there we go. So now we have the final four here. Baylor versus Michigan State. All right, now finishing up the finals here. My account did get too many requests in 1 hour on GPT-4, so I did create a new account real quick, and I'm just making sure that the bot knows. Cool. Let's move on to Baylor versus Michigan State. What if we do multiple lines? And then we can do like Texas versus Gonzaga. There is the information cutoff, but again, we know with GPT-4, that is not necessarily a full cutoff, and they do actually have information past 2021. Yeah, they can actually ask or answer more than one basically matchup, so we'll do that here from now on. Baylor's overall talent, and then we're gonna Gonzaga's overall firepower. So nice little upset in the Final Four. And then let's see, national finals is gonna be Baylor versus Gonzaga. Bam. For the 2023 men's NCAA championship. Let's see what it would be. Davian Mitchell, Jared Butler, Gonzaga. We're talking a lot about the two different teams. Mentioned the team pick winner. Both teams have great offense. However, I would give a slight edge to Gonzaga in this matchup. While Baylor's a great team, Gonzaga's overall talent, depth, and consistency throughout the season would make them a tough team to beat. Plus, their experience in close games could be a factor in a championship matchup. Ultimately, it's important to remember that anything can happen in March Madness, yada, yada, yada. So they have Gonzaga winning it all. It does not mention the final score, but what we can say is, what would be the final score? I know I'm not mentioning any specific teams, but yeah, okay, so I can't predict the scores. Yep. Okay, so they're talking about the range of games, scores of games. Look at this. This is nuts. Getting so much information. All right. So it says it right here. The average score of the tournament games was around 143 points. That'd be like 72 to 71. Margin of 10 would be like 71. Okay, so it'd be like 5. Let's put a score of like. Let's do. We're just gonna put. This is where I come in. This is where I come in. So 78 to 73. We're gonna put that there. Okay, there we guys go. That is the final bracket. I will leave here on the screen just for a minute as we scroll down. We're not gonna go over every single pick. This is a long video, so make sure you guys do scroll back if you guys are curious. We have all the ChatGPT answers over here, and then they have Gonzaga winning it. So again, we'll be uploading shorts basically every round to see how accurate this bracket is and see how great ChatGPT is at predicting the March Madness winners. So with that being said, again, make sure you guys do subscribe down below, like, comment your guys' brackets and choices and thoughts overall, and I will see you guys later. Peace.